Breaking now, a woman is dead. A man, possibly a naval criminal investigator, shot and critically hurt.
She had told me that she was in fear for her life last night, and I actually helped her lock up the house and get everything together, and then this happened.
Beautiful Takara Glenn Hightower was being interviewed by NCIS agents about claims she made of domestic violence against her husband, who's a senior recruiter in the Navy. When all of a sudden he burst into their home and shoots her to death while she is holding her infant child. How could a highly respected professional be capable of committing such a horrendous violent act against their spouse and the mother of their 6 children? Welcome to Viral Crimes. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. This story takes us to Atascocita, Texas. Atascocita is a suburb of Houston with a population of 81,860 and is one of the best places to live in Texas. 34-year-old Takara Glenn Hightower was young, beautiful, and full of life. She was married to 37-year-old Greg Hightower. They were a beautiful couple and had 6 children together. Takara was a loving, supportive wife and an excellent mother who was devoted to the development of her children. She took care of the home and supported the family. Greg served in the U.S. Navy for 19 years, most recently in the position of a senior chief recruiter for the Navy. He was also an author and entrepreneur. He was owner and CEO of the Hightower Real Estate Investment Company, and he just acquired the Shar Inn Motel at a tax sale, with plans to bring the long-abandoned Peoria County Motel back to life. He desired to return to Peoria and manage the motel as a way of giving back to his hometown. The couple had been married for 15 years. They lived in a beautiful home with a pool in an upscale neighborhood. They seemed to have a great relationship, but at some point the relationship turned violent. Takara made complaints against her husband to the Naval Criminal Investigative Service in Texas for domestic abuse. The Navy had a duty to investigate the domestic abuse allegations, therefore at 1:30 p.m. on September 22, 2022, 2 NCIS agents came to her home to interview her. While Takara was being interviewed, her husband Greg Hightower was not present at the home. NCIS investigators had just stepped outside the residence in Atascocita, Texas, when Greg Hightower apparently stormed inside and shot and killed his wife. He also shot an NCIS agent. The NCIS special agent and second NCIS special agent on scene returned fire on Mr. Hightower, hitting him in the stomach, but he was able to flee the scene in his vehicle. Takara still had the couple's infant child in her arms when she was discovered dead. The child was physically unharmed. In addition to the infant, the couple's 3-year-old was in their home at the time. Both kids are now in the care of relatives. The injured NCIS agent was taken to the hospital in serious condition, but he survived his injuries.
New details on a deadly shooting that left the parents of 6 children dead and an NCIS agent wounded.
In this case, you never know what was going on behind closed doors. NCIS investigators were at the house you see behind me looking into domestic violence issues between a Navy recruiter and his wife. That's when things went terribly wrong yesterday. A barrage of bullets fired during an altercation Thursday along Tulloch Run in Atascocita is frightening.
It was crazy.
This neighbor, who didn't want to be identified, heard the shots, then saw an injured NCIS agent in her driveway, where crews returned today to clean up blood.
He was bleeding.
Sheriff's investigators say an NCIS team was here looking into domestic violence issues between an active duty recruiter and his wife when the recruiter showed up, first shooting and killing her as she held their youngest child, who amazingly was uninjured. The husband then gets into a black car and leaves the scene. He was later shot and killed by a Precinct 4 deputy constable who caught up with him in the Willowbrook area.
It's a big surprise for me.
Neighbor Andrew Olickban is among those shocked and saddened, especially for the children left with no mom or dad.
I was like, nah, he wouldn't do that with put all his career on jeopardy and stuff like that. That don't make no sense.
Greg Hightower traveled to the apartment of a relative, where he was located by law enforcement officers, who then confronted him outside the property. A shootout with sheriff's officers took place in front of the relative's residence, in which Gregory Hightower was shot and killed.
The suspect shot and killed by deputies after allegedly opening fire on them at a separate scene.
We want to show you where all the chaos is unfolding. It started on Tulips Run in the Balmoral community in Humboldt. The suspect was killed a good distance away on the northwest side.
The female inside the house, when our units arrived, found her deceased still grabbing or holding on to her infant child. They were able to rescue the child and get him out to safety. The agents ran house to house trying to find some assistance, and a Good Samaritan thankfully opened the door, let the agents in, stabilize the situation briefly until an ambulance could get here and transport.
The investigation revealed that Takara Hightower had reported many domestic abuse incidents involving her spouse to authorities. Following claims that Greg Hightower had beaten his wife, Harris County Sheriff's officers had twice been sent to the home. Takara Hightower reported her husband hitting her to the authorities in July, which was the first occurrence. However, no charges were brought against Greg Hightower because he made the same allegation against his wife to deputies that day. Just 2 days before Takara's death, there was a second incident, the result of which caused her to seek a restraining order against him. This senseless crime has left 6 children ranging in age from 12 months old to 16 years old without a mother and father, and has left Takara's loved ones in deep sorrow. In order to assist in paying for the funeral expenses, burial expenses, and money to care for the 6 children, Takara's best friend, Christina Izell, set up a GoFundMe account. She went on to describe her friend as a fearless lioness and protective mama bear who lived for each of her children. She stated that the bond Takara shared with her babies was like none other. The selfless, caring, and relentless woman that she was, shined bright in her children's eyes. Takara Hightower's mother and her sisters are now taking care of her kids. Greg once stated in an interview about his book, "I learned to never take relationships for granted and to cherish the moments. Celebrate the small wins in life. I want the world to know that you never know what a person is going through during life. I always make it a point to be good to people, even when I feel that they have wronged me." Nobody knows what was going through Mr. Hightower's head and why he felt that he needed to do what he did. What would make him destroy his family and give up everything he worked hard to accomplish in his 37 years of life? Takara did everything she was supposed to do. She filed domestic abuse complaints multiple times and was taking out a restraining order on her husband. Sadly, her life was taken from her. What happened to Takara was a tragedy. Her husband didn't have the right to take her life from her. She should be here with her children. My condolences to her friends and family. May you find some way to heal from your pain. According to a report by Everytown for Gun Safety, around 70 women are shot and murdered by intimate partners each month, and domestic abusers who carry guns are 5 times more likely to kill their partners. Domestic abusers pose a serious threat to the general public as well. Domestic abuse is a factor in over 2/3 of mass shootings in the United States. According to Texas Gun Sense, where permitless carry is legal and where more than 90% of women slain by males are killed by someone they know as lovers, spouses, past partners, or as stalkers, the situation is especially serious. If you or someone you know has been the victim of domestic abuse, you can find help and support at dvis.org, the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233, or by contacting your local women's shelter at domesticshelters.org. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.